Enough is enough. Those were the words Bishop T.D. Jakes said after something really sad happened that hurt both his health and his good name. Behind all his powerful talks and his big influence around the world, he was fighting a really hard battle that tested how strong he was, how much faith he had, and what people thought of him. What happened when he was speaking at church was only the start of a story that would shock millions of people. For many years, Bishop T.D. Jake has been a powerful speaker at his church since he started the Potter's House in 1996. His voice has brought hope and help to a church family of more than 30,000 people, making it one of the biggest and most important churches in America. His words have filled up huge stadiums. His talks have reached people all around the world. And when he was on stage, people always thought he was super strong and nothing could shake him. That idea was destroyed on November 24, 2024. What started as another powerful Sunday talk turned into something nobody expected. Jake had been talking for almost an hour, giving the kind of talk his church people love to hear. When he put the microphone down, his body started to shake. At first, it looked like he just needed to catch his breath, but in just a few seconds, he was shaking really bad and falling over his chair. People from his team ran onto the stage to help him, while thousands of people watched in shocked silence, both in the church and online. The moment spread really fast on social media, leaving millions of people around the world asking the same thing. What just happened to Bishop Jake? He thought he was just preaching with lots of energy, not knowing that his body was getting really sick. Only when the church service ended and he sat down, did he realize what was really happening. The energy went away and his body couldn't handle it anymore. Seeing a man who was so strong and steady suddenly look so weak left his church family really scared. Many people thought he was just really tired or needed water. But the truth that was waiting at the hospital was much more scary. He thought the worst part was over. But what the doctors told him next would change everything. When Bishop T.D. Jakes was taken from his speaking place to the hospital, not many people could imagine how serious what had just happened really was. In the ambulance, as the medical people worked really fast to help him, Jake himself didn't really understand what was happening. I didn't really know what was happening to me on stage until I got to the hospital in an ambulance. He said later, the scary truth came when a doctor came close and told him words that would stay with him for the rest of his life. "You've had a really bad heart attack." It wasn't just any heart attack. The whole right side of his heart had completely stopped getting blood because something was blocking it. To Jakes, what the doctor said was really confusing. I didn't have the normal signs of a heart attack. He said there was no feeling of his arm going numb, no really bad pain, no sudden falling down before his talk. Instead, he explained, I just kind of felt like I was going to sleep. I didn't know what it was. What the doctors told him next really scared him. The doctor said 5 minutes later, I'd have been dead when I got here. Doctors moved really fast, doing emergency surgery to remove what was blocking his heart. Amazingly, Jake was awake during the whole thing. The doctors were working on me while I was awake. They never made me go to sleep, he remembered. Technology, it's amazing. For a man who had spent his life talking to other people about faith and miracles, the fact that he was awake while his heart was being fixed only made the moment feel more important. When he later watched video of himself falling down, Jake said it was almost impossible to watch. I wasn't really there in the chair. I didn't feel it like it looks like. It's hard for me to look at that video because they had to pull the microphone out of my hand, he said. To the people who were in the church that day, it was a really scary thing to see. But in his own mind, what happened had taken him somewhere completely different. They had to pull it out of my hand. But in my mind, I was in a quiet, peaceful, calm, white-covered, cloud-covered place. I was on my way out. As a pastor, he saw what happened not only as a health problem, but also as something spiritual. Looking back, it was such a special thing to stand on the other side to get a little look at what that might be like, or at least what it was like in that moment for me. He thought about it. I think it was absolutely amazing. And then I had my whole church. And when I say my whole church, I mean people all around the world, not just the people who come to my church, even people who didn't go to my church. People everywhere were praying for me. I'm so thankful. The timing of Jake's health problem was weird. It happened right when people were saying bad things about him that could have ruined his good name. Many people started to wonder, could the worry from this scandal have been the thing that made his body get so sick it almost killed him? 4 years, Bishop T.D. Jakes has been known as one of the most important pastors in America. His name was connected to faith, hope, and helping the community. But like what often happens with famous people, people who liked him also brought people who didn't like him. Stories about his private life had been talked about before, but they usually didn't become a big deal. That changed in late 2024 when two brothers, Dwayne and Richard Youngblooded, made accusations in legal papers that could have overshadowed everything Jake had built. The things they said were really graphic and disturbing. In his legal paper, Dwayne Youngblood remembered a conversation from when he was a teenager at a private house where Jake was staying. As I got ready to leave, he pulled me close and tried to kiss me. The paper said. Youngblooded also said that Jake called him the next morning and told me he wanted me to be the only person he had a close relationship with when he came to town. The accusations didn't stop there. Dwayne's older brother, the Reverend Richard Edwin Youngblood, also came forward. He said that he had heard Dwayne talk about bad things Jake did years earlier. But Richard made his own claims too, saying, Jake climbed into his bed on a church trip. That night, while I was lying in my bed, I felt Elder Jake climb into my bed. He pushed his body against mine and asked, Youngblood, do you feel that? The statement that was signed in December 2024 said. For Jake, the accusations were not only lies, but really insulting. His lawyers responded by talking about Dwayne Youngblood's criminal record for sexual assault and hurting minors, questioning if people should believe him. They also said that Richard Youngblooded's story only came out after Jake said no to hiring him almost 10 years ago, because he wasn't qualified. To deal with this problem, just one day after falling down on stage and being in the hospital for a short time, his lawyers filed a lawsuit saying people were lying about him. It was a bold thing to do, but for Jake, it was necessary. The lawsuit was aimed at Dwayne Youngblood, a man who had come forward with really troubling accusations that didn't just threaten Jake's good name, but the legacy he had built over many years. Jake explained why he did it in simple words. All of this was happening while I was helping my wife get better from knee replacement surgery and while helping my brother deal with kidney failure, he wrote in his statement. This unnecessary stress brought me to a place of having a health problem on stage in front of my entire church family. As a guy who'd had no health problems before, this almost dying experience was a turning point for me. Enough is enough. The fight brought Jake's family into the spotlight, too. In court papers, Dwayne said that Jake's son, Jermaine, had sent him a text that seemed like a threat. Jermaine said this wasn't true, saying he only reached out to warn Dwayne about another person he didn't trust. There was no reason for me to say anything that I meant to be threatening, Jermaine wrote. He remembered that Dwayne responded quickly, saying that it was noted. The accusations painted Jake as someone who manipulates people, even someone who grooms young people. Dwayne said that Jake once promised to support him with money for life, but Jake said this was completely wrong. During that time, I was barely keeping my own family out of being poor. He wrote, I was not the Bishop T.D. Jake of today. I was a pastor with no big following and no money. To support what he said, Jake's legal team included photos of his small storefront church and home from that time, proof, he said, that he was just a small-town preacher struggling to get by. He reminded the court that it was only after meeting evangelist Carlton Pearson in 1992 and giving his now famous Woman Thou Art Loose sermon the next year that his ministry became known across the country. The legal papers showed another part, money. Dwayne's lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, had sent a letter demanding $6 million to settle the claims. Jake called it someone trying to steal money. He went further saying, I think a bigger group is involved in this plan, all expecting to get a share of this attempted money grab. This whole campaign to hurt my reputation started shortly after the public announcement that Wells Fargo promised up to $1 billion for community redevelopment. Meanwhile, Dwayne was building his own public platform. He created a website where people could book him as a speaker, coach, or presenter on trauma recovery. He also hinted at a future tell-all book about Jake. To Jake, it was proof that the accusations were part of a planned attempt to make money from scandal. His representatives, when asked for comment, only said it was an ongoing legal matter. They stressed that he was still getting better from the medical incident. But for Jake's, getting better was no longer just about health. His good name, his ministry, and even his family's name were all now in danger. Having looked death in the face, he would come back, but not as the same man. Because decisions he made later would shock many people. When T.D. Jakes came back to his church family after his almost dying experience, It wasn't with the loud voice and huge energy that his church people had always known. Just days after leaving the hospital, he appeared on a live video stream to tell them that he was alive, grateful, and still holding on to faith. Seeing him talk from recovery brought both tears and relief. By the time he stood again in front of his church people on New Year's Eve, the moment was filled with emotion. The man who had almost slipped away now spoke knowing that life itself was fragile. This brush with death was more than a wake-up call. It marked a turning point. 4 years, Jake had been the driving force behind the Potter's House, guiding a membership of more than 30,000 with vision and non-stop energy. Now he announced that he could no longer carry the full weight alone. Jake admitted the health scare forced him to face reality. After my health incident, I didn't want the church left struggling, trying to figure out where do we go from here, he explained. I didn't want that to happen. I've seen a lot of people keep things so long that they built and then ended up killing it. He began to step back from daily leadership. On July 6, 2025, Jakes announced he would pass the leadership of the Potter's House, the church, to his daughter, Sarah Jakes Roberts, and her husband, Tay Roberts. The announcement shocked his church family. For many years, Jake was the identity of the Potter's House, but now the future would belong to a younger generation. Sarah, just 36, admitted the challenge was scary. I don't think anyone could step into this role and not feel a little bit of fear. She said, "It's been exciting to work through all the different emotions, and it's going to be exciting to see what next looks like." Tay also added by saying, "The weight of responsibility of leading an incredible ministry founded by an incredible man is a balance between exciting and serious." Jake called the decision a changing of the guard. He said, "They haven't totally gotten rid of me. I'm still going to preach. I'm still going to minister. I'm still the chairman of the board. But the day-to-day pastoring and all those responsibilities would now rest on Sarah and Tay." For Jake, this wasn't sudden. The seeds were planted years ago when he began involving the couple more deeply in the ministry. The best way to train somebody is let them watch you do it, then let them do it with you. And finally, to let them do it while you watch, he explained. We're at that third stage now of letting them do it while I watch. Sarah's path to the speaking place was anything but simple. She had her first child at 14 and believed faith wasn't meant for her. But in 2010, during a painful divorce, she began writing blogs about her struggles. To her surprise, people reached out saying her words were healing them. That was when she realized she could minister honestly without pretending to be perfect. Toe's journey was also unusual. Growing up in Watts and working as a tech entrepreneur, he never imagined becoming a pastor. But in his mid-20s, he says, "I really started getting serious about God. Got touched by God in the church and began to tell everybody around me how amazing it was." By 2004, he started One Church International in LA, which grew into thousands of members and over 1 million YouTube subscribers. Handing over the Potter's House to Sarah and Tay wasn't an ending for Jake, but it was a new chapter. He would remain as chairman, guiding from the sidelines while his daughter and son-in-law carried the daily weight of leadership. The church family cheered his courage to step back before it was too late.